The snow fell heavily outside our rented cabin in Aspen as our family winter vacation seemed perfect at first. But on the third evening, while Karen slept upstairs, my stepson Chris cornered me by the fireplace and said the words that would destroy everything. "I love you, Michael. Not like a son loves his father. I'm in love with you," he whispered, then kissed me before I could react. I stumbled back, my heart slamming against my ribs. The fire popped and crackled, but the warmth did nothing to thaw the ice that spread through my veins. Chris stood there, 24 years old, tall, with broad shoulders from years of college soccer, his dark eyes locked on mine, full of a desperation I had never seen in the boy I had helped raise since he was 10. "Chris, what the hell are you talking about?" I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Karen was just upstairs. One wrong sound and this fragile life we had built would come crashing down. He stepped closer but stopped when I raised my hand. "I have felt this way for years. I tried to fight it. I dated girls in high school and college. Nothing ever felt right. It has always been you. The way you coached my soccer games, the nights you stayed up helping me with math, the way you looked out for Mom and me after Dad left. I fell in love with the man who became my real father." His voice cracked on the last word. I turned away, staring out the big window at the snow blanketing the pines. This could not be happening. I was 45, married to Karen for 15 years. We had a good life in our Seattle suburb. I ran a small construction firm. We went to neighborhood barbecues. Chris was my stepson. The label carried weight. Society would call this sick. My own mind screamed the same thing. Yet the kiss lingered on my lips, warm and real in a way that terrified me. I told him to go to bed. He hesitated but finally climbed the stairs. I sat by the fire until the logs burned down to embers, replaying every moment of the last 14 years. Teaching him to drive. Celebrating his high school graduation. The pride I felt when he got into the University of Washington. Had there been signs? Had I missed something? Or worse, had I felt something too and buried it so deep I never let it surface? Morning came too soon. Karen made pancakes, her laugh filling the kitchen as she teased Chris about his terrible ski form the day before. I forced a smile and avoided his eyes. On the slopes that afternoon, the three of us carved turns through fresh powder. Chris skied close to me more than once, brushing past with a look that said we needed to talk. My stomach twisted every time. By evening, I was exhausted from pretending. Karen noticed. "You seem off, honey. Everything okay at work?" she asked as we soaked in the hot tub under the stars. I lied and said I was just tired from the altitude. That night, after Karen fell asleep, Chris knocked softly on my study door where I had retreated. I let him in against my better judgment. He closed the door and stood there looking young and vulnerable again. "I did not plan this, Michael. But I could not keep pretending anymore. Being here with you every day is killing me." His words hung in the air, heavy with the kind of truth that changes lives. I wanted to yell at him to get out. Instead, I asked him to sit down. The conversation that followed stretched into the early hours. He told me about the nights he lay awake thinking about me, the guilt that ate at him, the fear that if he never spoke up he would regret it forever. I listened and felt the ground shift beneath me. By the time the sky lightened, I had not slept. The vacation had 5 more days. I had no idea how we would survive them. The next morning I woke with a pounding headache and a knot in my chest that would not loosen. Chris acted normal at breakfast, joking with his mother about the ski runs we would tackle that day. I watched him and saw the effort it took. His smiles did not quite reach his eyes when they flicked toward me. Karen remained oblivious, chatting about the spa appointment she had booked for the afternoon. For a few hours the three of us rode the lifts and skied hard, the cold air whipping our faces. It felt almost normal until we stopped for lunch at the lodge. Chris found a moment when Karen stepped away to the restroom. "We need to talk more," he said quietly across the table. "Last night was just the beginning. I need you to understand this is not some phase." I told him not here. The fear of someone overhearing made my skin crawl. That afternoon, while Karen enjoyed her massage, Chris and I took a walk on a quiet trail near the cabin. The snow crunched under our boots. He spoke first. "I know what this looks like. The stepson falling for the stepdad. People will say I am confused or damaged. But I have thought about this for a long time. When you married Mom, I was just a kid who needed a father. You gave me that and more. Somewhere along the way my feelings changed. I fought them so hard, Michael. I went to therapy in college. The therapist said my emotions were valid, but the situation was complicated. I tried to move on. Then I saw you at my graduation. The way you hugged me. I knew I could not keep lying to myself. I stopped walking and faced him. The pine trees stood silent around us. Chris, I raised you. I changed your flat tires and cheered at your games. This crosses every line. What about your mother? She loves you. She loves me. If this comes out, it will break her. My voice shook. Inside, my own thoughts betrayed me. Parts of what he said echoed in places I had ignored for years. The comfort I felt in his presence. The quiet pride that swelled when he succeeded. The way his laugh could brighten the worst day. I had told myself it was fatherly love. Now the lines blurred and it scared me more than anything. We talked for over an hour. He asked if I had ever felt anything for a man. I admitted there had been a close friendship in college that felt different, but I had pushed it away and married Karen. Maybe I was not ready to face it then, I said, surprising myself. Chris reached for my hand. I let him hold it for a moment, the warmth of his palm sending a jolt through me before I pulled away. We cannot do this, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, they felt hollow. That evening Karen sensed the tension. You two have been thick as thieves this trip, she said with a smile as we cooked dinner together. It is nice to see my boys getting along so well. The guilt hit me like a punch. Chris and I exchanged a glance loaded with everything we could not say. After dinner, I told Karen I needed to review some work emails and retreated again. Chris found me later. We sat on opposite sides of the room talking in low voices about the risks, the pain, the impossible choice. By the time we said goodnight, I knew the vacation would never be the same. The walls I had built around my feelings were cracking, and I did not know how to stop it. The remaining days in Aspen passed in a blur of forced normalcy and stolen conversations. We skied hard during the day, laughing for Karen's sake while my mind raced. At night, Chris and I talked. He opened up about the loneliness of hiding who he was. The pressure from friends who assumed he would settle down with a nice girl. The fear that coming out fully would change how the family saw him. I listened and shared my own quiet doubts about the path I had chosen. The marriage to Karen had been safe and steady, but the passion had faded years ago. We stayed together for comfort and for Chris. Now that foundation felt like sand. One afternoon Karen decided to shop in town, leaving us alone at the cabin. The snow had stopped and sunlight poured through the windows. Chris suggested we sit by the fire. The conversation turned deeper. He told me he had imagined a life where we could be together away from judgment. I told him that dream was dangerous. People will call me a predator. They will say I groomed you. Your mother will never forgive either of us. He argued that we were both adults now. The choice was ours. When he moved closer this time, I did not push him away immediately. His hand rested on my arm. The contact sent warmth spreading through me that I had not felt in years. We sat like that for a long minute before I stood up and walked to the window. This cannot happen, Chris. The cost is too high. But the seed had been planted. On the last night of the trip, Karen went to bed early again, exhausted from the week. Chris and I stayed up. The talk grew intense. He asked me directly if I felt anything beyond fatherly affection. I hesitated for a long time. I care about you more than I should, I finally admitted. The kiss the other night. It woke something up. But acting on it would destroy the family. I cannot do that to Karen. Tears filled his eyes. Then what do we do? Go home and pretend none of this happened? I cannot live like that anymore. We left Aspen the next morning. The drive to the airport was quiet. Karen chatted about how refreshed she felt. Chris and I sat in the back seat, our knees occasionally brushing. Each touch felt electric and wrong. Back in Seattle, the reality hit harder. Our house in the suburbs looked the same, but everything inside me had changed. I threw myself into work, hoping the routine would quiet the storm. It did not. Chris texted me late at night when Karen was asleep. Simple messages at first. Then longer ones about his feelings and questions about mine. I answered more than I should have. The The secret conversations became the highlight of my days and the source of my deepest guilt. Weeks passed after the vacation. The holidays came and went with forced cheer. Karen planned family dinners and I played the role of devoted husband and father. But every smile felt like a lie. Chris had returned to his apartment near campus, but he came home often. We found ways to talk alone. In the garage while I worked on the car. On evening walks around the block when Karen thought we were just stretching our legs. Each conversation pulled me deeper. He shared stories from his childhood that showed how early his feelings had started. I confessed the restlessness I had felt in my marriage, the sense that something essential was missing. One rainy Saturday, Karen went to visit her sister for the day. Chris came over. We sat in the living room with coffee and the talk turned serious. "I am tired of hiding, Michael. I want to be with you. We could figure this out slowly. Maybe tell Karen the truth eventually." The idea terrified me. I pictured her face, the betrayal in her eyes, the neighbors whispering, my business partners pulling away. "It is not that simple," I said. "This is not just about us. It is about the life we built, the people who depend on us." Yet when he reached across the couch and took my hand, I did not pull away. We sat like that, talking about what a different future might look like. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine it. The guilt followed me everywhere. At church one Sunday, the pastor spoke about integrity and family values. I sat there sweating, wondering if everyone could see the conflict on my face. At work, a colleague mentioned a story about a man who left his wife for a younger partner. The judgment in his voice cut deep. I knew the same judgment would fall on me 10 times harder because of who Chris was to me. Still, the pull grew stronger. Chris and I shared more vulnerable moments. A long hug in the hallway when Karen was out. Quiet admissions of love that felt both beautiful and devastating. Karen began to notice the change. "You seem distant lately," she said one night as we lay in bed. "Is something bothering you at work?" I reassured her, but the lie tasted bitter. The pressure built inside me like a dam ready to break. I knew I had to make a choice soon. Continue the double life or face the consequences of honesty. The price of either path felt unbearable. The confrontation came on a cold February evening. Karen had found a text on my phone. Nothing explicit, but enough. A message from Chris that read, "I cannot stop thinking about our talk last night. I love you." She waited until I came home from work. Chris was there too, having stopped by for dinner. The three of us stood in the kitchen as she held up the phone, her face pale with shock and anger. "What is this, Michael? What have you been doing with my son?" The room spun. Chris stepped forward. "Mom, it is not what you think. Or maybe it is. I love him. I have for a long time." Karen's eyes filled with tears, then flashed with rage. She turned on me. "You were supposed to be his father. I trusted you with him. With our family. How long has this been going on?" I tried to explain the vacation, the confession, the months of internal struggle. Every word sounded weak even to me. She accused me of betrayal, of taking advantage of Chris's vulnerability. Chris defended me, saying he had initiated everything. The argument escalated. Voices rose. Tears flowed. Karen demanded I leave the house that night. I packed a bag in stunned silence. Chris wanted to come with me, but I told him to stay and try to repair things with his mother. Driving to a hotel, I felt the full weight of what I had done. The family I had built for 15 years lay in ruins. Karen's pain cut deepest. She had lost her husband and now questioned her son. Friends would take sides. My reputation in the community would suffer. I sat in the hotel room staring at the wall, wondering if any love was worth this destruction. Chris called later. We talked for hours. He said he would stand by me. But I heard the strain in his voice. His mother had asked him to move out too. The next days brought more confrontations. Karen served papers. Family members called with disappointment and anger. The social cost became real. Colleagues whispered. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Through it all, Chris and I leaned on each other, navigating the fallout. The love that had sparked on that winter vacation now existed in the open, but at a terrible price. Months later, the divorce was final. Karen kept the house. I moved into a small apartment downtown. Chris stayed with friends while finishing his degree. We saw each other quietly at first, then more openly. The relationship grew slowly through shared meals, long talks, and the gradual acceptance of what we were to each other. There were good days when the connection felt worth every sacrifice. There were hard days when the loneliness of lost family ties hit hard. Karen refused to speak to either of us for a long time. Mutual friends distanced themselves. I lost a couple of clients who cited personal reasons. The judgment from society proved as harsh as I had feared. Yet, in the quiet moments with Chris, I found a kind of peace I had never known. He encouraged me to explore the parts of myself I had suppressed. We built new traditions, small ones that belonged only to us. The awakening came gradually. I realized I had spent years living a life that fit expectations rather than my truth. The price had been enormous. Karen's heartbreak, the fracture in the family, the whispers and lost relationships. Chris paid too. The rift with his mother left scars. He carried guilt for the pain he caused her. Looking back at that winter vacation in Aspen, I see the moment that changed everything. The confession by the fire set in motion a chain of events that forced us all to face uncomfortable truths. We each paid a heavy cost for the choices made. I chose honesty over comfort. Chris chose love over secrecy. Karen chose to protect her dignity even as it cost her the family unit. In the end, was it worth it to follow my heart and pursue this love even though it meant tearing apart the family I had sworn to protect?